Ladies and gentlemen, listen closely. Outsmarting someone is not about tricks, lies, or flashy bravado. It's a discipline. It's a set of habits that turn you from reactive to relentless, from predictable to impossible to outmaneuver. Today, I'll give you 5 rules. Follow them, and you don't just win arguments or deals, you control the field. Know their map before you move. Most people operate blind. They react to what someone says. The masters study context. Before you speak or act, learn the landscape, motivations, constraints, history, pressure points. Ask, what does this person have to gain or lose? Who's whispering in their ear? When you know the forces that shape someone's choices, you anticipate moves before they even think of them. Practical step: create a 1-page mental profile, goals, fears, incentives, and update it after every interaction. Make them small, mentally, not personally. High performers don't humiliate, they depower. When you reduce the weight of an opponent's immediate wins, they panic and reveal weaknesses. Use calm facts, deliberate silence, and precise questions to shrink the moment. People perform worst when they feel exposed and rushed. So slow the tempo anchor to a fact they can't dodge and watch their confidence crack. Practical step: whenever conversation heats, ask 2 precise, disarming questions and then stay silent. Silence extracts truth. Own the frame. Who sets the terms wins. If someone insists you're arguing about price, you'll stay on price. If you reframe to value, safety, legacy, or consequence, the whole game changes. Frames are mental coordinates, and the one who speaks first often sets them. Don't accept a frame you didn't design. Reframe deliberately. Name the real problem, redefine the timeline, or shift the metric of success. Practical step: prepare 3 frames before crucial meetings: the default frame, a value frame, and a worst-case frame, and switch to the one that lands. Control your state. Their mistakes will follow. People mirror. When you are calm, focused, and purposeful, they mirror steadiness or reveal agitation. When you're frenetic, they get defensive. Mastering your physiology, breath, posture, pace buys time and clarity. Use it to force errors. A steady voice puts pressure on hurried opponents. A relaxed posture makes threats look small. Practical step: a 2-minute breathing routine before any high-stakes interaction. Breathe to lower your heart rate, slow your speech, and lengthen pauses. The pause is your best tactical tool. Make decisions. Don't wait for permission. Dominance is not domination. It's decisiveness. People who outsmart others move first with clarity. They set deadlines, propose solutions, and accept responsibility for outcomes. The world rewards the actor. If you hesitate, you let others define success for you. Practical step: always come with a recommended course of action and 3 contingency options. Present the recommendation confidently and give the counterpart a structured way to opt in or out. Now, how these rules work together: imagine a negotiation. You arrive having studied the map. You open on your frame, value, not price. You speak slowly, pose a disarming question, and listen. Your steady state makes them hurry. They reveal their constraint. You present a decisive solution that looks like the only viable path because you already know it fits their map. You don't bully. You lead. A few tactical behaviors to make this real. Starting today: listen to learn, not to reply. When you listen to reply, you miss the trap. When you listen to learn, you collect ammunition, label emotion, then pivot to fact. If someone gets loud, label it. I hear your frustration, then move them back to specifics. People calm when named. Use defaults to your advantage. Offer a reasonable default, timeline, or price. People accept defaults more often than they negotiate them. Do the hard work in private. Preparation beats performance. The confident face is the result of unseen rigor. Exit elegantly. If the field is poisoned, don't win the skirmish and lose the war. know when to walk and when to close. A final note about ethics: outsmarting someone is a responsibility. Use these rules to create value, not to exploit. The point is not to crush people. It's to lead conversations toward truth, efficiency, and better outcomes. Real dominance is sustainable. It wins respect and repeat partnership. So here's your assignment for the next week. Pick one relationship, a coworker, a client, a family conversation, and apply one rule daily. Keep notes. Measure outcomes. Domination isn't a moment, it's a habit. Build the habit and you change the game. Stand taller when you enter the room. Speak with intention. Listen like you mean it. Control the frame. Decide when. Thank you. Master perception. Control the frame and you control the game. In every interaction, whether it's a conversation, a negotiation, or a conflict, perception defines reality. People rarely respond to the truth. They respond to how the truth feels, how it's presented, and how it fits within their mental framework. The frame is the invisible boundary that shapes how others interpret what's happening. It's not manipulation, it's strategic awareness. Whoever sets the frame decides what matters, what's at stake, and what the story means. Most people walk into situations reacting to someone else's frame without realizing they've already lost before they've even spoken. To master perception, you must see what others don't. That control begins long before words are exchanged. Every person sees the world through filters: ego, emotion, past experience, and personal goals. When you understand those filters, you can design the frame that guides their thinking. Let's say you're pitching an idea and someone challenges you on cost. If you stay in their frame, you'll spend the next 10 minutes defending numbers. But if you reframe the conversation to focus on value, longevity, or risk reduction, suddenly the numbers become secondary. The shift doesn't happen through confrontation, but through redirection. You simply move the conversation to higher ground where you hold the advantage. The power of framing lies in directing focus. What people pay attention to becomes their truth in that moment. People think control comes from aggression, louder voices, or stronger arguments. In reality, it comes from calm certainty. The person who defines the frame doesn't need to raise their voice. They guide with precision, not force. When someone throws chaos your way, your job isn't to fight chaos with more chaos. It's to step outside of it and redefine what's happening. If someone accuses you, reframe to shared problem solving. If someone doubts you, reframe to curiosity and testing, not defense. For example, instead of saying, "That's not true," say, "That's an interesting point. Let's look at it another way." That simple pivot takes you out of their frame and puts them inside yours. You've changed the battlefield without announcing it. Controlling the frame starts with self-control. If you can't manage your emotions, you'll never manage perception. Every reaction you give teaches people how to treat you. If you overreact, they learn to push you. If you stay calm and measured, they learn you're the anchor in the storm. Confidence isn't about being the loudest. It's about being unshakable. The moment people sense you're not emotionally invested in their provocations, you gain leverage. You become the steady rhythm in a room full of noise. And that rhythm draws others to your frame because humans naturally gravitate towards stability. Your calmness becomes authority without you needing to claim it. To master perception, you must also master language. Words carry frames within them. The same message can be a demand or an invitation depending on phrasing. Instead of saying, "You need to," say, "What works best for you if we," instead of "You're wrong," say, "There's another perspective worth considering." Subtle changes like these disarm defensiveness and create alignment. People drop their guard when they feel seen and respected. The key is precision, You're not being vague to please everyone. You're being strategic to open pathways of agreement. Control doesn't come from rigidity. It comes from flexibility with intent. Nonverbal framing matters just as much. The way you sit, stand, move, and breathe sets the emotional tone of every interaction. If your posture is grounded and your gestures controlled, you signal competence. If you make steady eye contact without overdoing it, you signal confidence. People read body language faster than they process words. And once they label you as composed or chaotic, it colors everything else you say. You could deliver the most brilliant idea, but if your energy screams insecurity, the frame becomes doubt. So when you enter any room, walk in as if the space already belongs to you. Your energy should say, I belong here. I'm not proving myself. I'm leading this moment. Framing also means anticipating resistance before it arrives. The smartest individuals prepare multiple frames for the same situation, one for logic, one for emotion, and one for consequence. If someone attacks you logically, you pivot emotionally. I understand why you'd feel that way. If they attack emotionally, you pivot logically. Let's check the facts together. This switching ability makes you untouchable because no one can lock you into a single frame. You flow while they freeze. Preparation is the unseen power behind effortless dominance. The best communicators look spontaneous, but every word, pause, and redirection is intentional. A common mistake people make when trying to control perception is overcompensating. They dominate conversation, interrupt, or over-explain. That doesn't show control, it shows insecurity. The true masters use silence. Silence is a framing weapon because it forces the other person to fill the space, often revealing more than they intended. When you speak, end with pauses, let your words breathe. Watch how others rush to respond. Every time they do, you learn what drives them. Silence is not emptiness, it's pressure. It's the sound of authority in motion. Another powerful framing technique is storytelling. Human brains are wired for narrative. If you can turn your perspective into a story, one that links emotion and logic, you win attention effortlessly. Instead of listing facts, tell a scenario. Imagine this. Or here's what happens when stories bypass resistance because people stop evaluating and start visualizing. The moment they visualize your frame, they live inside it. You've shifted them from opponent to participant. The longer they stay in that story, the harder it becomes to challenge your position because they've emotionally invested in your version of reality. To sustain dominance through perception, consistency is essential. Your frame must match your behavior over time. If you project confidence one day and collapse the next, you teach people that your control is temporary. True dominance is subtle and steady. It's built on patterns of composure, clarity, and conviction. People begin to predict your calmness, your structure, your dependability, and that predictability becomes a psychological anchor. They frame you as the stable authority. And once that perception forms, it rarely breaks. Control the frame long enough and people stop testing you. They start aligning with you because what you project shapes what others believe, and what they believe shapes how they behave around you. In the end, the one who masters perception doesn't fight for control. They are control. The environment bends toward their focus. The conversation flows toward their objectives, and everyone else plays inside the boundaries they've already drawn. Silence and composure are your sharpest weapons. In a world addicted to noise, the one who masters stillness becomes the one who controls outcomes. Most people equate strength with volume, quick responses, and dominance in conversation. They think power comes from being the loudest voice in the room, the one who always has an answer ready, the one who never hesitates. But true power operates differently. Real power is quiet, deliberate, and unnervingly composed. Silence doesn't mean weakness. It means calculation. It means you refuse to react on command. It means you're not playing their game. You're making them play yours. Composure is not about staying calm because you're detached. It's staying calm because you're in control. When you stay silent, you force others to reveal themselves. Every time someone speaks, they disclose their priorities, fears, and insecurities. Silence turns into a mirror that reflects what's inside them. Most people are uncomfortable with quiet. They rush to fill it. And in that rush, they expose too much. If you can hold silence longer than the other person, you always win the psychological battle. They'll interpret your stillness as confidence, mystery, or superiority, all of which give you leverage. You can test this in any conversation. Pause before responding, maintain steady eye contact, and let the tension do the work. You'll watch people trip over their own words, backtrack, and try to guess what you're thinking. That's dominance without saying a word. Composure begins with awareness of your emotions. You can't fake it for long. The human body betrays what the mind hides. The tightening jaw, the flicker in the eyes, the tapping foot. To truly control your composure, you must first understand your triggers, what makes you rush, defend, or over-explain. Every time you react emotionally, you lose positioning. The goal is not to suppress emotion, but to manage its expression. You feel it, you acknowledge it internally, but you don't let it dictate your next move. The person who can separate emotion from execution commands any room they walk into. They operate from reason, not reaction. That distinction alone separates professionals from amateurs, leaders from followers, and the composed from the chaotic. Silence isn't passive. It's a form of data collection. When you're quiet, you're observing tone, micro expressions, body language, and word patterns. You're studying inconsistencies, what's said versus what's left unsaid. Every pause becomes a space where you gather insight. The talkative person may believe they're leading, but they're actually revealing. The silent one is mapping the territory, finding weaknesses, and waiting for the precise moment to strike with a statement so measured it silences everyone else. It's not about speaking less. It's about speaking last and landing harder. A few words spoken with authority after deliberate observation carry more influence than 100 spoken in haste. Composure communicates control more powerfully than any display of emotion. When situations escalate, most people either attack or retreat. Very few remain still. That stillness communicates unshakable confidence. It says, I am not threatened. And I am not moved. People read that posture as power. They may not understand why, but they feel it. It makes them adjust their tone, lower their defensiveness, and follow your pace. In conflict, your calm is contagious. It de-escalates aggression and shifts the emotional balance in your favor. The person who loses composure first gives away authority. The one who remains grounded dictates the tempo. In negotiation or confrontation, composure acts like armor. People will test you with insults, urgency, guilt, or manipulation. They want to see if they can make you flinch. When you don't, they lose control because their tactic fails. They realize they can't control your state, and that unnerves them. The longer you stay composed, the more they question their own approach. In high-stakes situations, you never have to overpower anyone. You just have to outlast their need for reaction. The game ends when they realize you're not playing by their emotional rules. You're not here to match energy. You're here to lead it. Silence also creates mystery, and mystery amplifies respect. The less you reveal, the more people project strength onto you. They fill in the blanks with assumptions that often work in your favor. Mm-hmm. When people can't predict you, they tread carefully. They measure their words. They seek your approval. They chase your reactions. That's psychological leverage at its finest. But mystery only works when combined with confidence. If your silence feels like fear, you lose power. If it feels like certainty, you gain it. The difference lies in your body, language, relaxed shoulders, measured breathing, steady gaze, still hands. When your nonverbal communication matches your composure, silence becomes a weapon that cuts sharper than words. The disciplined use of silence also reshapes communication dynamics. It forces others to listen to themselves. When someone's emotional or confrontational, don't argue, let them speak. Let them hear their own voice echoing. The longer they talk, the more their emotion dissipates and logic returns. When they finish, you step in with calm precision, summarizing what they said and pivoting the conversation toward clarity. That move reframes you as the adult in the room. Logical, stable, trustworthy. You didn't overpower them. You guided them out of chaos. That's real influence. Not the kind that intimidates, but the kind that anchors. Composure is built in silence long before it's tested in chaos. It's a skill forged in how you start your day, how you breathe, how you think. It's developed through the discipline of slowing down. Every time you pause before responding, every time you choose restraint over reaction, you strengthen that muscle. The mind follows the body. If your breathing stays calm, your thoughts stay clear. If your posture remains open and grounded, your emotions stay balanced. That's why preparation is crucial. Composure is not something you switch on when the pressure rises. It's something you live daily so that when tension arrives, your body and mind already know what to do. In leadership, composure commands loyalty. Teams follow the one who stays steady under fire. When everyone else panics, the composed leader becomes the source of certainty. In relationships, composure earns trust. People confide in those who don't overreact. In business, composure signals competence. Clients and partners equate calm with credibility. The pattern is universal. Stability attracts alignment. Humans are drawn to those who seem unaffected by volatility because they crave that steadiness themselves. When you embody composure, you become the psychological anchor others hold on to without realizing it. Silence and composure together create space for strategic thought. In moments when others react, you're analyzing. When others defend, you're dissecting. That mental stillness gives you time. And time is the most valuable currency in decision-making. With time, you can see the whole board while others fixate on a single move. Silence stretches the moment, giving you the advantage of clarity. And clarity always wins. The more deliberate your presence, the more predictable your results. You no longer respond from emotion. You respond from intention. That is the difference between operating from power and chasing it. When you internalize silence and composure as your weapons, you stop being swayed by external chaos. You understand that control doesn't mean dominating others. It means mastering yourself so completely that no one can provoke you into losing focus. Every reaction is a currency. You choose whether to spend. Most people waste it on impulse. The composed spend it only when it serves a purpose. In that restraint lies the essence of true dominance, not through noise, but through the quiet certainty that you control yourself, and therefore you control the outcome. Decisiveness commands dominance. Hesitation surrenders it. Every environment, from boardrooms to battlefields, rewards the person who moves first with clarity. Decisiveness isn't about rushing. It's about cutting through confusion with conviction. Most people spend their lives waiting for permission, perfect timing, or more certainty. They waste precious energy circling possibilities while the decisive few act, adjust, and advance. The difference between leaders and followers isn't intelligence or opportunity. It's speed of execution. When you decide, you claim power. When you hesitate, you hand it away. The world follows momentum, not indecision. People trust movement, even when it's imperfect, over stagnation masked as caution. The truth is, hesitation kills authority faster than any wrong move because it signals doubt, and doubt is contagious. Decisiveness begins with clarity of identity. You cannot make strong choices if you don't know what you stand for. Every decision becomes a tug of war between fear and intuition. Those who command dominance know who they are and what they want, so they don't waste time seeking validation. They gather information, evaluate the essentials, and act with confidence. When you're clear on your values and priorities, decision making becomes a filter, not a debate. You don't overthink because your direction is already set. Decisiveness is not reckless impulse. It's guided speed. It's the product of deep internal alignment where mind, emotion, and purpose move in one direction. The clearer your vision, the faster your choices align with it. The faster you act, the more authority you project. Every decision you make communicates something about your leadership. Slow decisions tell people you're uncertain or afraid to fail. Fast, confident decisions tell people you can handle outcomes, good or bad. The decisive person earns respect because others feel safe in their direction. People naturally follow clarity. They want someone to say, "This is the way." Decisive action builds psychological gravity. It pulls others into your orbit. When you hesitate, you invite others to question, interfere, or take control. Even if your choice turns out imperfect, you can always adapt, but you cannot correct a decision you never made. Movement creates feedback. Hesitation creates fog. The faster you move, the faster reality gives you new information to refine your path. The slower you move, the more you drown in hypothetical scenarios that never existed. The fear of being wrong is the root of hesitation. People think mistakes damage reputation, but indecision destroys it faster. The world respects someone who acts, fails, learns, and recalibrates more than someone who stalls in the name of perfection. The decisive individual understands that progress requires risk. They know certainty is an illusion, and that clarity comes from engagement, not endless contemplation. To build decisiveness, you must train your tolerance for risk. Start making small decisions quickly. What to prioritize, what to cut, who to trust. The more you decide, the stronger your instinct becomes. Decision making is like a muscle. It grows through repetition. The more you use it, the more intuitive it becomes. Eventually, you stop fearing mistakes because you trust your ability to recover from them faster than others can react. Decisiveness also means taking ownership. When you make a call, you stand by it. You don't hide behind excuses or blame. Accountability reinforces credibility. Even if a decision leads to an undesired result, owning it with integrity earns respect. People can forgive errors. They rarely forgive weakness. The decisive person doesn't chase approval because their confidence doesn't depend on external validation. They are guided by a private compass calibrated by experience and principles. This is why decisive people often appear intimidating, not because they're arrogant, but because they operate independently from the crowd's need for reassurance. They move with the quiet certainty that no matter what happens, they'll handle it. That certainty is what dominance feels like in motion. In high-pressure situations, hesitation is fatal because time becomes the most valuable currency. The one who hesitates cedes tempo to the one who acts. Tempo is control. When you set the pace, you control the energy of the room, the flow of conversation, and the rhythm of negotiation. This is why leaders often make fast, confident calls, not because they always have perfect information, but because maintaining momentum keeps others off balance. When you decide quickly and clearly, others must respond to you. They lose initiative, you gain command. Even if you pivot later, You're still the one dictating direction. That's the power of decisiveness. It keeps you on offense while others scramble to defend. Decisiveness doesn't ignore reflection, it streamlines it. Smart decision makers create frameworks, questions they ask before acting. What's the objective? What's the cost of delay? What's the worst case scenario? And can I recover from it? If the answer is yes, they move. They don't drown in analysis. They respect intuition, but confirm it with logic. This balance between instinct and information defines elite performers. They gather enough data to make an informed call, but never wait for absolute certainty because they know it never comes. Absolute certainty is the comfort zone of those who never lead. Decisive individuals trust that motion itself generates clarity. They act, observe, adjust, and that cycle outperforms hesitation every time. The psychology behind decisiveness is simple. People associate confidence with competence. When you act with conviction, even tentative observers believe you know what you're doing. This perception alone opens doors. In contrast, hesitation triggers doubt. If you don't trust your own judgment, why should anyone else? Decisiveness builds reputation. Over time, people learn that when you make a call, it gets done. They start depending on your leadership because your decisions create structure. In uncertain environments, structure equals safety. The decisive leader becomes a stabilizing force others gravitate toward because they reduce ambiguity. Every clear decision you make becomes a beacon in chaos, and that beacon becomes your brand. Decisiveness also eliminates mental clutter. The mind consumed by indecision burns energy with no progress. Reopen loop I'll think about it, drains focus. Decision making closes loops. It frees mental space for execution. The decisive individual doesn't hoard decisions, they clear them. They make, act, and move on. That mental efficiency compounds over time, creating enormous productivity and momentum. This is why the most effective people don't seem rushed even though they make hundreds of choices daily. They've trained themselves to decide once, then commit. They understand that rethinking a decision 10 times is wasted energy disguised as caution. Decisiveness is magnetic in leadership, relationships, and competition because it communicates self-trust. People can feel it. They may not always agree with your choice, but they respect that you made one. And respect is the foundation of influence. In contrast, hesitation invites interference. The moment you stall, others step in to decide for you. That's how authority erodes, not through challenge, but through surrender disguised as patience. Every time you delay action, you teach others that you can be overridden. Every time you move decisively, you teach them that your direction is final. Dominance isn't about forcing others to follow. It's about leaving no vacuum for them to fill. To embody decisiveness, cultivate the mindset that movement creates mastery. You don't wait for perfect alignment. You create it through motion. Every decision is a step forward, even if it needs correction later. The decisive individual never chases perfection. They chase progress. They understand that the world rewards momentum because momentum is rare. Most people think, few execute. The gap between the two is where dominance lies. Once you internalize that hesitation is just fear wearing logic's mask, you stop hesitating altogether. You start acting with purpose, clarity, and calm authority. You stop waiting for doors to open. You walk through them. You don't ask if you're ready. You decide that you are, because in every situation, the one who decides first writes the rules and everyone else plays by them.